salespeople get a bad connotation. Oh, I don't want to be a salesperson. I don't want to be a pushy person. I will tell you, the best salespeople I know are great storytellers. They relate, they tell a story that the audience can relate to. So I don't want anybody walking out here thinking, well, I've got to change the way I sell. No, tell stories. It's a series of conversations. It's interchange, it's exchange, etc. So that's part one, right? That's part one about this. The other thing that I would tell you is there are things that you are going to get today as you did yesterday. It's like you said you were thirsty and we fed you with a fire hose. Like we throw all this stuff at you. Don't try to say I'm going to take all 67 pages and change what I'm doing. Take 2 or 3 nuggets from yesterday. Take 2 or 3 nuggets from today. Put them into practice. Get good at it. Make it a habit. And then go back and take 2 or 3 more once the other parts come in. Because there's going to be so much that you're not going to be able to figure this out. But here's the good news for you all. Your prospects and your customers didn't go through the training. So they're not going to go, hey, you missed something here. Come back over in this, right? They're not going to say that. So as long as it helps you get a conversation, get a meeting, get a referral, as long as it helps move the ball forward, that's the key, right? So these are the things that and nothing that we talk about, I think you saw that yesterday, nothing is theoretic. Everything is practical application. That's when I say to you, say this or use this script or use this language to see if that helps you. And you can modify it to fit what's comfortable for you, but I want you to have something that you go, oh, I could say that. I can hear myself saying that. And this is the last thing I'll tell you before we get into today's content. If you have concerns about how it's going to come across, how it's going to be perceived, what I want you to do is practice. And the best way to practice is to leave yourself a voicemail. So whatever it is you're going to say to the client or to the prospect, right, especially if it's something that may be confrontational or a little difficult, leave yourself a voicemail and listen for tone, inflection, and pace. Just listen. And if you listen to it that way and you go, yeah, I think that would come across well. I think my prospect or customer would relate to that. That's what it's all about. So get yourself into that habit of leaving yourself voicemails. As I mentioned, my wife and I have been together 36 years, and she's the CEO of our organization. And I've been informed at different times in my life that I have a tone. Did not realize at times I had a tone, but apparently I do. And so what you don't want to end up having a conversation where you're right in what it is you're saying, but it comes across as confrontational to the audience, right? So you may be exactly right. The things that you're saying are right, but it doesn't help you get any of the business because the person took it in a defensive manner. Does that make sense? Okay. So as we get into today's stuff, I wanted to go back to the pyramid of power, which of course was not in your book, but just again for reminders, and I think we have a couple new folks here as well. What we said was, if we can get high enough in the pyramid of power, the person who has the decision maker, the power of the pen, makes our job a lot easier. But we have to sell at all levels of that pyramid. So whether it's the office of the CXO, the line of business executive, the staff executive, or day-to-day operations, we still have to sell up and down the organization. There was a question yesterday, and one of the gentlemen is in the board meeting this morning, so he's not here, but I wanted to share it because I thought it was a good question. We said, even though our solution may be the same, let's just say we're selling executive search, right? That's what we're going to sell. Depending upon the title I talk to, I have to understand how it relates to them, how it makes their job easier. So let's use one that's uniform, because yesterday I heard from several of you that at some point in time, finance is going to get involved in our conversation. We all said that, right? So the CFO, the treasurer, some financial person is going to come into that conversation. So I want to use this example, and we call it the problem positioning grid. You don't need to know it by that name, but let's use this as an example, and I want you to participate with me. If you can imagine 3 columns on a piece of paper. The left-hand column will be the title. So we have CFO. The middle column would include responsibilities. What was this person hired to do? How are they measured? Okay? And then the third column would be, what needs might they have that Stanton Chase Solutions could help? Okay, so just visualize that. So I've got a CFO, and if I said to you, what are some of the responsibilities of a CFO? what would you say? What were they hired to do? Yes, please.
Financial oversight.
Financial oversight, absolutely. What else?
Save money.
Save money or manage cash flow, save money. What else?
Accounting.
Accounting, right? What else?
Treasury.
Treasury, absolutely. Sorry? Controlling, yes?
Financial planning.
Financial planning. You know, a lot of times they're setting budgets, right? Establishing budgets. Another part of what's going on. We talked about financial reporting, so compliance and governmental compliance, etc. So as you start understanding, those are the things that that person is measured on. So you say, okay, if I am now talking about executive search with a CFO, what do I talk about that checks their box, that rings their bell? What would I talk about to them that would relate well to their position? What would I say?
Leadership, the leadership.
And so, yes, leadership, but give me more. What is it that I would say? Yes, please.
How the right hire in the search process can bring in talent that will enhance their bottom line and profitability.
Yeah, so they're certainly going to relate to bottom line and profitability. So if I'm able to bring in talent, right, we could help you bring in talent that will help either increase revenues, decrease costs, improve profitability, et cetera. That person would relate to that, would they not? What else?
Risk management.
Risk management is a huge one, a huge one. How do I mitigate risk? How do I stay or become or stay compliant? How do I make sure that this person has the best interest of a company at heart, right? That they are that, that gatekeeper, if you will. Good, really good. What else?
MIS.
MIS, so I talk about MIS or information systems. So what does that do from a personal standpoint? How does that help? Think about this, because if we can't put ourselves in the chair of the CFO, we miss the story. What does it do if we can systematize or automate the process? What does that do for an organization? Save money for sure. What else? What does it do if I systematize something? Shorten times.
More efficient process.
More efficient process. Streamline processes. Yeah, streamline processes. And it allows you to do more with less. Isn't that a phrase that you're hearing a lot in business globally today? Everybody's talking about, I've got resource constraints. I've got budget issues, so I need to do more with less. So now if I have somebody that's a finance person who's got a technology bent, who can really help us streamline our operations, improve reporting, improve compliance, with a smaller staff, oh my, that's a wonderful discussion. So the point I'm making to you is, depending upon my title, I'm going to have a little bit of a different conversation based upon what they were hired to do. If I was going to talk to a president, a CEO, or an owner, right? What's my conversation there? What am I going to talk to them about? Okay.
The business model. In general, I talk with them about the business model of the company.
So the business model of the company.
Yeah.
What else? Growth. What else?
Challenges,
Challenges, certainly.
transformation, probably.
Transformation, especially when we talked about some of the family-owned businesses that are trying to become more professional. But let me tell you that this resonates with everybody in any company anywhere in the world. Brand, image, and reputation. Any president, CEO, general manager, managing partner, brand, image, and reputation. It really matters. It especially matters to family-owned businesses, right? But brand, image, and reputation. Think about what Stan & Chase has done, right? When you've kind of talked about how the brand is now starting to extend the brand, image, reputation, isn't that important? So again, that's the discussion. So now, if I'm able to help that most senior level person find the best talent available, don't I get their attention? Because it enhances the brand. It enhances their reputation. It enhances the image. Because great leaders bring others in. I don't remember who to give credit for this. I heard this years ago, and I just love the line. And they said, you can't consider yourself a leader until at least one person follows you. And that's kind of true in business. So now if I bring in high quality top talent and they then can attract others into the organization, Now all of a sudden you see quantum growth. Okay, so does that all connect the dots? Questions about that? No? Okay. So today we're going to get into talk about selling retained search, and the important part of that is understanding what's getting in the way today. In different parts of the world, in different industry sectors, we have different challenges. But if I ask you today, what gets in the way of selling retained search effectively, what would you say? Yes, ma'am.
Or is it differentiating from other retained search firms?
Differentiating. What else?
A lot of competitors.
Competition. And you have competition in a variety of areas, do you not? I've got the big retained search firms, I got the contingency firms, I've got the little boutique firms over here that play with me. You get running in a lot of different ways, do you not? So it's not just competition, it's more, and in some cases better competition, not meaning better service, but they are more viable competitors today. Okay? Differentiating competition, what else? What gets in the way? Yes, ma'am.
Internal talent acquisition, people? Barriers to entry?
Got it. Yes, ma'am.
Bad past experience.
Bad past experience. That bad past experience can manifest itself one of two ways. Either they had a bad experience with retained search in the past, or maybe they had a bad experience with your firm, right? So it could manifest itself either way. Differentiating competition, internal talent acquisition, bad past experience. What else gets in the way of selling retained search today? I'm waiting for one. I'm waiting for one here. Sorry? Partnership? I'll put that down. Meaning lack of partnership.
Price.
Fees.
Relationships.
All good ones. Let me give you, yeah, please.
Time.
Time. Technology.
What about the economy or just?
In different parts of the globe, absolutely. Different industries, absolutely. Let me give you the one nobody owned up to. What gets in the way of selling retained search? Us. Okay? If we don't have the confidence, if we can't distinguish the difference, we become our own worst enemy. We really do. And the competition starts to beat us up about that. And so when we started talking yesterday about the value proposition, when we started talking about what differentiates us, what was something that you heard yesterday? You heard the tagline, it's been talked about a lot. What was one of the taglines yesterday? Fewer and focus? Did we talk about that? Y'all were here yesterday, right? I was the guy wearing a different outfit, but yeah, I was just, okay. So start to think about what that means, because when we get into the bigger, when we start talking about competing against the bigger quote-unquote brand names, that's a different model than talking about a contingency, and that's a different discussion about talking about this. But we want to take anything that is a perceived weakness and make it a strength. So in our case, Stanton Chase's case, we don't need to do as many searches. If I'm a big firm, what's happening with a big firm today?
Overhead.
So they've got overhead for sure, but they're also taking everything that they can get and throwing it to junior partners right over the transom to go get the next deal. They're going to hunt that next deal because it's all about getting the next search. What are we talking about? We're trying to talk about get the best talent. We're going to have intimate knowledge of you. We're going to take the time to know you. So fewer is actually a strength rather than a weakness. And it also allows you to be able to be extremely focused. One of the discussions yesterday, I heard people talk to me, and it was really great. What I love about this, and Jim said it to me yesterday too, how open you guys are. In other words, I cannot even go to the bathroom because somebody's going to run here and grab me and have a conversation. That's neat. You know, I got here early. A couple folks were in early. We were chatting. I love that, which means you're engaged. You're trying to figure it out for yourself. But let's look at this and really understand it. If you try to go get a new piece of business and you discount your fees up front, you've just discounted the value. And I've heard people say this to me, well, you know, we just need to get in the door. Once we get in the door, let me tell you, how often did the second search were you able to charge more? I think the answer is never, okay? Zero, never happens. So you've established a new ceiling to them. You thought it was a floor, right? You're thinking, I'll go get this and I'll do this search for 35, even though it really be worth 80. I'll do it for 35, but now that I'm in, I'll be able to move up. No, they've just said, well, now if I give you 2 searches for this next, now what are you going to charge me? 80. No, that's not right. Do you see the difference in what's happening? So it's that ability to understand what's the value to them, the client, what's the value to the client on this, and what makes it different, what's going to help us. So I want to use this as a guideline, right? This is a good guideline, but we're going to have some good in-depth conversations about understand how we position retain search first, and then we're going to get specific more to the different competitors that are out there. But is this not true? If I said for Stanton Chase, and again, I think we have some intimate knowledge here. You tell me if it's not true. That we are probably more client-centric and we are certainly more intimate than our competition. Is that a true statement? And what I mean by that is we're investing the time to know the clients and the candidates, and that you're doing face-to-face interviews more often than your competition is. True statement? Okay. So again, that only matters if it's of value to your client. You can think it's of value, but if it's not important to them, we have to make sure. The second, you have a unique blend of global coverage combined with deep local knowledge, industry specialization, and practice area expertise. Ooh, that's pretty good, right? Contingency recruiters in general are all motivated about making the placement, right? That's what they're about. What are you wanting? You want to get the best person in the role. You want to find that best person in the role. Contingency guarantees are usually 3 months. Yours are up to 2 years. That's pretty valuable, right? We can protect the client's reputation. In other words, what we're talking about here, if you use retained search, you got one firm that's working it, right? We're not putting this out to the masses. You're going to be able to protect that reputation. And I'll go further. The ability, right, that ability to get that passive candidate to a person who's not actively looking today that may be the right fit. And I think that's your home run. To me it is because of the focus that you have on the searches. And you take your practice area expertise and you go, I know who some of the best people in the world are in that particular role. Now, they might not be actively looking today, but I have the opportunity to at least have a conversation on your behalf to see if I can dislodge them of where they are and have them consider you. That is invaluable. Yes, sir, you had your hand up?
Maybe adding something, you say that contingency recruiters are motivated to make a placement. I would say they are motivated to make an easy placement. So
easy placement.
Their business model is, if it's a difficult search, they
Yes.
won't invest time, because then there we have the dedication, as we already mentioned yesterday, to get not only the right person, but to keep going to get the best person.
Yeah.
Their business model is completely different.
Right.
They just have the easiest placement, and as soon as it starts to become difficult, they focus on others.
I think that's a great point, and we understand exactly why, because they're not making any money until they get the placement in. So I want it to be fast and easy so that I can get paid, right? And I want to go on to the next one where we're saying we'll take the time, and that is the idea. We're going to do fewer searches with better focus to deliver better results. So if that is important to you, Mr. Client or Mr. Prospect, then you should consider Stanton Chase. If that's not important, if you want us to just throw bodies at it, then we're not the right partner for you. And the ability to have that conversation is critically important, where it doesn't come across as flippant, it comes across as, look, I am being your trusted advisor. I don't want to sell you something that you don't value. Isn't that, again, I feel like I'm preaching, I'm not trying to, but isn't that really the case? So I'm going, okay, I got all these challenges selling it. I understand some of the positioning this today. So let's say you're talking to a prospect, and let's use contingency first before we get into the competitors. So I've got somebody who's not had experience or not used retained search in the past. They've either done contingency or they've done in-house searches. So talk to me about the type of questions that you would ask to try to get them to consider a different model. What would be some questions you could ask today?
How much time do you invest in screening people?
How much time do you invest in the screening people, right? Got it. What else?
Tell me about the quality of your candidate.
Tell me about the quality of your candidates. Now we have to be careful because sometimes, back to my conversation yesterday, we don't want to let them think they have ugly children. So we have to be careful. We know it's broken, but we have to ask it in a second. And maybe a way to position both of those questions is, hey, can you walk me through the process for your last hire? How much time did it take? How many candidates did you see? What worked? What didn't work? Just kind of walk me through the process. That's less intrusive, but maybe more eye-opening.
I don't know if it's intrusive or direct.
Well, it certainly is. Yeah, it's direct. I mean, to me, I wouldn't have an offense at that. I'm just trying to be sensitive to your client or the prospect because they're the ones that are measuring. Yes, please.
Yeah, one thing that works, at least for me, when dealing with that, is that I show them the funnel. Because if you want to have one person, right talent, probably you are going to visit 100 guys. So if you clearly show the funnel, the guy will realize that they are not going to do that.
Yes,
generally,
that's true. That's true.
So and the sales, the contingency guys are normally in the sell side. We're in the buy side.
Yeah.
We're working with them.
Yes, very, very true. Yeah, and so let me give you an example, and I may have been a difficult customer when I was using search in my corporate life, but I had a company that has come to me and they said, and so I'm going to really air my own dirty linen here. So a search firm was recruiting, that was trying to get our business, and I said, okay. I said, so I understand we've been using this other firm for quite some time. I said, so we'll give you an opportunity to do this search. I said, here's the deal though. I'll take as much time as you need with me to be able to identify the candidate. But at the end of the search, I want you to bring a candidate forth that you recommend. A candidate, one candidate. And they said, well, kind of our process is bringing in three. I said, no. If you want to earn my business, here's what I need. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know. Ask as many questions as you need to know. I want to find out if you can interpret what I'm saying. Go out and find the candidate that you would hire for the job. Well, they were very leery and they were very uncomfortable because what was their whole role? If I can throw enough people at you, you'll find one that you'll like, and maybe if I even use that term, maybe one that you would settle on. But I'm saying, no, I want the one that you had. Long story short, they were able to do that. We had a great candidate. He ended up being a really impactful player in our organization. Over the next 3 years, I think they did 19 or 20 searches for us. But I set the stage. Here's how I'm measuring you. Okay? Here's how I'm measuring you. So back to our discussion again. In the contingency piece, they want easy, they want fast. I'm not going to go to the level. Would it not be true if I took Stanton Chase versus a contingency search, you will bring fewer candidates forward to them, but you would bring higher quality candidates to them? Isn't that a true statement? So back to our point again with our prospect. If that's not important to you, then I'm not saying that. But if that is key, if you want us to do all of the heavy lifting and really scour the earth to be able to find the best candidates, we'll provide that for you. But again, that's going to be at a cost. A lot of times people want that result, but they want to pay a lesser fee. It doesn't work that way. Okay? So we talked a little bit about contingency to retain. Now let's go back to playing against some of what we would call some of the more name brand players. We're going to do a whole piece on competition in the next module, but I want you to think through this today. If somebody says, yeah, we're pretty happy with Korn Ferry, what would you say? How do you address that?
Hey, John, can I take one step
Please.
back, if you don't mind?
I don't mind.
On the contingency side, it happens quite regularly that some of our clients will ask us to put the third payment at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And does that ever happen to y'all?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your response?
No.
Yeah. Well, I always ask the question, why would you want me to do that? I always just throw it right back at them. Why would you want me to do that? And if they can never answer that, they just, because they sit there and say, well, I really want to make sure you're engaged. I said, well, if my third payment is at risk, it's going to pervert the way I look at candidates, because I'm just trying to get somebody in that seat, and that's not what you're hiring me for. And so I don't know if you practice that or prepare for that, but I just push it right back on them. I said, sure, if that's what you want me to do, is start trying to push people, you're hiring the wrong firm. I mean, that's not what you're hiring us for. So I push back. I just don't do it. But I always ask the question, why would you want me to do that?
Yeah, that's a really good example. Yes, please.
In many cases, when they ask it twice, it's just starting questions the other way around. Saying, is there a risk that you will stop the assignment, or are there things happening in your organization which would mean that you would like to stop the assignment?
Yeah.
And then they start defending, saying, no, we are committed. And then so, but if you're committed, then why?
Yeah, why?
Why?
Right, yeah.
And then, because when you turn it around, it's rather difficult. But in many cases, when they ask, it's simply because there might be an internal option which they might consider, and they want to benchmark, but then you know that they're playing with you.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
It's a difficult one.
And what did I say yesterday? It is our desire. And if we say that early in that relationship, to create a mutually beneficial, long-term, profitable relationship, that request flies in the face of that. So you can go back and say, well, I'm confused. When we first met, you said to me it was important for you to create a mutually beneficial, long-term, profitable relationship, yet you're asking me to put this fee at risk? Why? What am I missing? So it gives you a chance to get them to articulate. So back to a really good discussion. I'm going to talk about, I've got another slide coming up here about why Stanton Chase, but before I get there, I want to use this to the bigger play on a retained search. So if I go back and somebody says to me, we're happy with Korn Ferry, or we use Korn Ferry, right? If that's the discussion, we have to be very careful not to be over-eager, because we actually put ourselves in a bad spot. Let me give you an example of over-eager. I'm happy with Korn Ferry. Let me tell you why Stanton Chase is better. What did I just do? I discounted them, and I've actually insulted them, right? Haven't I not? Let me tell you why that's a bad decision. So I don't want to get myself into that discussion. So let me again set the stage for this. If somebody says, I'm happy with fill in the blank, whoever the other firm is, it doesn't matter. I'm happy with so-and-so. Use a 3-part response. Tell me, what do you like about them? What else do you like about them? And then pause for a second. If you could change one thing, what would it be? So tell me, what do you like about working with Korn Ferry? What else do you like about working with Korn Ferry? And then pause. If you could change one thing, what would it be? And I want to show you how powerful that is. We're going to pretend for a second here that you are no longer Stanton Chase folk, but you are actually your customers. And I'm doing a focus group here of Stanton Chase customers. So when you respond to the questions I'm going to ask, respond as a customer, not as a Stanton Chase person. You got it? So thank you for attending our first annual customer appreciation event. We really appreciate your business. Tell me, what is it you like best about working with Stanton Chase? The people. Yeah. What else do you like about working with Stanton Chase?
I can always get in touch with them.
I can always get in touch. What else do you like about working with Stanton Chase? Bring us great people. If you could change one thing, what would it be?
Only one.
If you could change one thing about that relationship with Stanton Chase, what would it be? Oh, you're not going to play coy with me here. What would they? They're going to say things about fees, or they're going to say time, or they're going to come up with something. And these are your best customers. So what I'm showing you is, rather than make them defend the decision of whomever they're using, ask them to explain how they've impacted them, right? Because when we get to the competitive stuff here, you're going to see some really good language you're going to be able to use right away that will change the dynamic. In our discussion earlier this morning, the next one I give you will be right up what you want to be able to do. Because I think this is really the aha. This is where we're trying to be able to get ourselves. Don't get yourself into a confrontation. Get yourself into a conversation. And the conversation is just understanding, how do you use them? How do you work with them? How good are they? Let me understand that. And then you could ask them if there's something that they would change, because everybody has at least one thing that they would change. And what are you looking for? A crack in the door. That's all you want. You're not looking at them to throw Korn Ferry or Heidrick and Struggles or anybody else under the bus. You're just looking for a crack in the door to have a different conversation. So let's go with what we're talking about here in terms of positioning. Why Stanton Chase? So again, tell me if we're off base on this one. Why Stanton Chase? We are trusted advisors who provide independent and expert guidance in securing the best fit for purpose talent for our clients' executive teams. True or false? Yeah, not exactly the woo-woo true that I was looking for, but okay. Okay. Back to our discussion yesterday, we provide complete transparency and open communication throughout the entire search process, ensuring integrity, honesty, confidence, and trust. True. There we go, a little better on it. We offer our clients the benefits of a global firm structured to act and operate as a boutique firm, flexibility and global presence. True. That's a big deal, is it not? We provide hands-on partnerships. Local senior partners personally do the legwork to get the best subject expertise and access to talent. So that's not just talking about you doing the search. What's it talking about? Making introductions, right? Referrals, bringing in subject matter experts, right? Practice leaders. That I'm going to bring the right resources to bear to help this work. That's different. We are specialized and have extensive experience in the industries which we serve. Our team is an integrated practice where consultants work as a seamless unit across borders to meet or exceed client expectations. Now, one would argue we need to get better at that. Stanton Chase, we need to get better at that seamless transition. That's the reason meetings like this take place, for us to get better, to share best practices. But if those things are true in your mind, now you have to measure how important is that to your prospect and or your client. Because if it's important, the default answer, the quote-unquote safe choice, is Stanton Chase. Right? If that's important, then we become the safer choice. And if you add the piece of the discussions about fewer and focused, that really becomes some of the, almost the calling card. So I'm taking what could be perceived as a negative and making it a positive. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Besides the third one, I think Korn Ferry or Spencer Stewart can say the same.
Can say the same. That's why I want to go back through it. So I'm going to get to my little discussion on that in the competitive piece, but let's have a little interaction today on that one. So if Korn Ferry says that, if I go back to this and I say, okay, I got that situation, I would ask the following question. How long have you used Korn Ferry? How long have you used it? Oh, as long as I've been here, 5 years. Watch this question. Have you been able to measure the impact that they've had on your business over that time? Because incumbents do a terrible job of measuring the value they bring. Listen to the question. How long have you used Korn Ferry? As long as I've been here, 5 years. Have you been able to measure the impact they've had on your organization over time? And the follow-on would be if they say no, we don't know because they've not measured that. You say, if Stanton Chase was fortunate enough to earn your business, I would want to schedule regular meetings to make sure you're getting value for the services we provide. Does that get you up to bat, do you think? It's a different conversation. And by the way, it should be a little bit of a nerve-wracking thing here, because if I ask the other question, how long have you used Stanton Chase? As long as I've been here. Have you been able to measure the impact on it? Because most of you said yesterday we're not having that follow-up and follow-through. So guess what? We need to start going back, doing those refocus meetings to reestablish the value. You said you wanted, we provided. What was the measurement? The discussion over here this morning, we don't have the numbers. The discussion last night, we don't have the numbers. The refocus meeting lets you go back to get the numbers and re-engage for a chance for referral. So fair point. I just wanted to make sure we had that.
But wait.
Yes.
Are we gonna learn how to measure that?
Yes. Yes. I started doing some of
the value.
Absolutely. Well, we did some of that yesterday. We're going to do deeper today. But so again, I want to reinforce this because I think you guys are thinking it's harder than it is, and it's not. So let me take two fronts here. One is a behavioral change, and maybe even for our BD people on the front end, I want to talk about how we do it on the front end. Then I want to talk about the existing clients. So if I'm a BD person, or whether I'm BD or I'm actually a partner, a search consultant that's out there working, I need to ask questions in the initial discovery meeting, how they get leadership talent today. What are the processes that you go through today? How many people are involved? How long does it take? What's the effectiveness of the hire? What's the ramp time? I'm asking questions about the process because I now know if it's taking you 6 months, if the ramp time for a new person is a year, if all that's going, I've got the baseline. Here's how it is today. So now if I know that Stan and Chase can positively impact some of those baseline numbers, I can measure that. So in the discovery phase, I have to take some time to know what does it cost you to do business today without a Stan and Chase solution. I need to work that. So BD, discovery, I need to ask those questions. Does that make sense? Because now, remember the question I asked yesterday. If I was fortunate enough to earn your business and it were a year from now, how do you know it was a good decision? They're telling you how they're measuring you. They're telling you the key performance indicators that are most important to them. So I'm using that as my baseline. So if they're telling me that's what I need to know, well, how is your current provider helping you achieve those, right? So I need to measure. That's the new one. That's a behavior change we can do immediately. You all leave Nashville, you go back to your representative offices, you can change that right now. Everybody agrees, do they not? The harder one is the existing clients where we have not measured that to begin with. And you all know this very true. If they disclose how great you are for them, they're worried about telling you too many good things for fear that you will charge them more. So I have to do the refocus meeting. So how do I measure the refocus meeting? And I use the term refocus. You can use that or another discussion. But I would say the purpose of the refocus meeting, again, is to thank you for your business in the past and to let you know I want to continue to earn your business every day. I'd like to understand some of the changes, what's changed in your organization, share with you some exciting news at Stan and Chase, and spend the balance of that meeting where those bullets intersect. Right? That was my setup yesterday. So now in the refocus meeting, I go back, I thank them. I say, tell me, what's new in your organization? Well, we've had some change in personnel. We've got this major initiative going on. We've got this or that. You start asking questions as they measure. What was the genesis of that initiative? Why did that initiative come about? Well, we're in this big cost-cutting measure. Okay, well, tell me a little bit about that. So we invest the time to ask questions, and in your book, we have a whole series of Stanton Chase specific questions that we built with the Nashville team, and we expanded that when we did the North American meeting. You're going to see, I think there's 25, 26 questions you can use that helps you start to be able to measure that. But those are the two ways we have to change our behavior and how we act to get the data. Because the client, especially in the prospect stage, is more likely to share that data early than they are later in the relationship for fear you will charge them more. Does that make sense to everybody?
Makes perfect sense.
And so back to our discussion again, if I'm having to discount fees to get the business, if I'm having to put my third payment at risk to get the business, you really got to ask yourself, why are we having that conversation? Because that doesn't seem to be the partnership that you want. It doesn't seem to be the kind of client that you want. They're not dedicated to you. It's kind of whichever way the wind blows, they're going to go to the lowest provider. Is that what you want? Is that the kind of client you want to have? I'm going to guess not, okay?